Tend to measure only what we can and not what we must. So it's so easy to measure time spent. It's easy to measure completions. It's even easy to measure level 1, scores, even NPS. It's relatively easy to send out a question to say, how likely are you to recommend this program or resource? And I think as the L&D community listening in, as well as chief learning officers, we should be very careful about what questions we're asking, because if you ask the wrong question, you are going to get a wrong answer, right? And I completely agree with Ken. I would not ask how are the KPIs of L&D changing. It is not L&D KPIs that should be the starting question. It should be business KPIs. Before that, it should be client KPIs. Who are we in service of? And then you translate from that KPI, once you've convinced yourself that that's the golden measure that you're going after, and convert that to, let's say, an L&D KPI. The other tendency I have seen is, again, somebody flies over and lands in the airport and says, we're not going to measure learning hours anymore. If you have facilitators, we're not going to measure your training man days anymore. I think, again, it's important not to swing from one end of the pendulum to the other. If you have 100 trainers, you do have to know what they're doing and how they're spending their time and how they're developing themselves. And in my past experience, I've actually had business leaders look at me and say, why on earth are you talking about business KPIs? You do your job and let us do ours. So I agree with Ken. The chief learning officer has to have the courage to look at the business and say, if you want us to do learning for your community, you have to co-create the KPIs and the indicators, both leading and lagging, with us. Otherwise, we're not coming to the party. I think that is really important. And then, of course, there's always the usual worry. Oh, but if he does well, it's not because of you L&D guys. It's because he had a good portfolio or he's got a great manager. And, it just shows how siloed we are in large corporations. If collective performance was the holy grail, we really wouldn't be fighting about who gets credit for that performance.